What if I told you that one of the most common products in nearly every American household could become the foundation of a real business, even if you're starting from scratch? Laundry detergent may not sound exciting. It doesn't have the hype of tech startups, the glamour of luxury brands, or the attention that trendy online businesses get. Yet every single day, millions of families across the United States pour detergent into their washing machines without giving it a second thought. That's exactly what makes this opportunity so interesting. People don't buy detergent once. They buy it again and again. But here's what most beginners never realize. Creating a laundry detergent business isn't just about mixing ingredients and putting a label on a bottle. The moment you decide to sell a household cleaning product, you're stepping into a world of regulations, business structures, labeling requirements, product claims, insurance considerations, and customer trust. And that's where most people get stuck. Today, we're following the story of Emily Carter, a regular entrepreneur who wanted to build a consumer product business from the ground up. She wasn't a chemist. She didn't own a factory. She didn't have a massive startup budget. What she did have was a simple question. Could an ordinary product that people use every week become a legitimate business opportunity if she approached it the right way? As Emily soon discovered, making the product was only a small part of the journey. The real challenge was learning how to build a business that could legally operate in the United States while creating something customers would actually trust enough to buy. And before she could sell a single bottle, she had to answer one critical question. What does it actually take to start a laundry detergent business legally in America? At first, Emily assumed the opportunity was simply about creating a better product. The more she researched the market, however, the more she realized that the real advantage was not hidden inside a secret formula. It was hidden inside consumer behavior. Every week, households across America wash clothes, towels, bedding, uniforms, and workwear. That means detergent is not a one-time purchase. It is a repeat purchase product. Customers buy it, use it, run out, and buy it again. For any business owner, that kind of behavior is incredibly valuable. Compare that to products people might purchase once every few years. A customer who likes your detergent could potentially buy from you dozens of times over the course of a single year. That realization completely changed how Emily viewed the business. She was no longer thinking about selling bottles. She was thinking about building recurring customer relationships. Then she noticed something even more interesting. Large brands dominate store shelves, but consumers are becoming increasingly interested in specialized products. Some want fragrance-free options. Others look for plant-based ingredients. Families with young children often search for gentler formulas. People with sensitive skin frequently experiment with alternatives to major national brands. Suddenly, Emily saw something that many beginners miss. She did not need to compete with every detergent company in America. She only needed to serve a specific group of customers better than anyone else. But that discovery created a new problem. If opportunities like these exist, why are there not thousands of successful small detergent brands appearing every year? The answer became obvious once she dug deeper. Most people focus on the exciting part of entrepreneurship. They think about logos, packaging, websites, and sales. Very few spend time understanding compliance, labeling requirements, business registration, liability protection, supplier documentation, and product claims. Emily realized that the biggest obstacle was not creating demand. Demand already existed. The real challenge was building a business that customers, retailers, and regulators could trust. And before she spent a single dollar on packaging or marketing, she knew she had to answer one important question. What legal foundation needed to be in place before her first bottle could ever reach a customer? The deeper Emily went into the industry, the more she realized that most beginners were asking the wrong question. They kept asking how to make detergent. Very few were asking how to build a legally compliant business around it. That distinction turned out to be critical. Before ordering bottles, designing labels, or contacting potential customers, Emily shifted her focus to the foundation of the business itself. She learned that if a company is not properly structured from the beginning, even a great product can create unnecessary risks later. Her first step was choosing a legal business entity. Like many small entrepreneurs across the United States, she explored forming a limited liability company because it separated business activities from personal finances and created a more professional structure for suppliers and future partners. Next came obtaining an employer identification number from the Internal Revenue Service, opening a dedicated business bank account, and organizing financial records from day one. None of these tasks felt exciting. None of them would generate a single sale. Yet Emily understood that professional businesses are built on systems long before they are built on revenue. Then she discovered another challenge. Selling a household product involves more than simply creating packaging that looks attractive. Product labels must accurately represent what is inside the container. Instructions must be clear. Claims must be reasonable and supportable. The more she researched, the more she realized that trust begins long before a customer ever opens the bottle. A misleading claim might create short-term attention, but it could also create long-term problems. Emily decided that her future brand would focus on transparency rather than exaggerated promises. At the same time, she began researching business insurance. Many new entrepreneurs skip this step because it feels like an unnecessary expense. Emily viewed it differently. If she wanted retailers, distributors, and customers to take her seriously, protecting the business needed to be part of the plan from the beginning. By the end of this phase, she had not manufactured a single batch. She had not sold a single bottle. But she had something far more important. She had a legal framework capable of supporting future growth. And now that the foundation was finally taking shape, Emily could move to the next challenge. Creating a product that was not only marketable, but consistent, safe, and ready to earn customer trust. With the legal structure finally in place, Emily faced a decision that would shape the entire business. Most beginners assume the next step is creating a logo, building a website, or posting on social media. Emily quickly learned that none of those things matter if the product itself is not ready. The first challenge was deciding how the detergent would actually be made. There were 3 realistic paths. She could manufacture everything herself on a small scale, rent access to a commercial production facility, or work with a contract manufacturer that already had equipment and production systems in place. Each option came with trade-offs. Producing small batches herself offered the lowest startup cost and the most control. Working with a contract manufacturer reduced operational complexity but required more capital upfront. Instead of rushing into production, Emily spent weeks researching suppliers and learning how ingredients affected performance, consistency, and customer expectations. She discovered that consumers rarely buy detergent because of technical specifications. They buy because they want clean clothes, pleasant scents, convenience, and confidence that the product works every time. That insight changed her priorities. Rather than chasing a complicated formula, she focused on reliability. Every bottle needed to perform the same way as the previous one. Consistency would become part of the brand. Next came packaging. What looked like a simple plastic bottle suddenly became a business decision involving cost, shipping weight, storage requirements, and shelf appeal. A bottle that looked premium might increase costs. A cheaper container might improve margins but weaken customer perception. Emily realized that nearly every decision affected profitability. Then came labeling. Product names, ingredient information, usage instructions, and safety information all needed careful attention. The label was not just marketing. It was communication. Customers needed to understand exactly what they were buying and how to use it properly. By the end of this stage, Emily had not yet launched the business, but something important had happened. The idea was no longer just an opportunity on paper. It was becoming a real product with a clear identity, a repeatable production process, and a path toward customers. The next question was equally important. How much money would it actually take to bring that first production run to market? Once Emily had a product concept, a supplier list, and a production plan, she finally arrived at the question that almost every entrepreneur asks sooner or later. How much money would this actually require? What surprised her was that the answer depended less on the product itself and more on the choices she made during the launch phase. Some founders try to look like a national brand from day one and spend tens of thousands of dollars before making a single sale. Emily took a different approach. She focused on building a lean operation that could prove customer demand before making larger investments. Her first expenses were surprisingly practical. Business formation costs, banking setup, insurance, sample ingredients, packaging prototypes, and initial label design all needed funding. Then came production materials. Bottles, caps, labels, shipping boxes, and inventory quickly added up. Even small orders required cash before revenue could arrive. As she mapped out the numbers, Emily estimated that a small launch could realistically require anywhere from a few $1,000s to over $10,000 depending on production volume and branding decisions. The lesson was simple. Startup costs were not fixed. They were determined by strategy. A founder chasing perfection would spend far more than a founder chasing validation. Emily chose validation. Instead of ordering massive inventory, she focused on creating enough product to test the market. That decision reduced risk and preserved cash. She also learned that many first-time entrepreneurs underestimate hidden costs. Payment processing fees, website subscriptions, shipping expenses, sample shipments, customer service tools, and marketing tests rarely appear in the original budget. Yet they directly affect profitability. By building a detailed spreadsheet, Emily could see where every dollar was going before it left her account. That visibility gave her confidence. More importantly, it prevented emotional spending disguised as business growth. Every expense had to answer one question. Would it help acquire customers or improve the customer experience? If not, it could wait. By the time her budget was finalized, Emily knew exactly how much capital she needed to launch responsibly. But another realization soon followed. Raising money and producing inventory were only half the challenge. The real test would begin when she calculated what each bottle actually cost to make and whether the numbers could support a profitable business. As launch day moved closer, Emily finally focused on the numbers that determine whether a business survives or struggles. Up to this point, she had spent time on legal structure, production planning, suppliers, packaging, and startup costs. Now she needed to understand unit economics. In simple terms, she needed to know exactly how much money was left after every bottle was sold. At first glance, the math seemed straightforward. If a bottle sold for $18, making a profit should be easy. But once Emily started breaking down the costs, the picture changed. The detergent formula itself was only one expense. There was also the bottle, the cap, the label, the shipping box, packaging materials, transaction fees, and the cost of getting a customer in the first place. If advertising was involved, customer acquisition costs could become one of the largest expenses in the entire business. Emily built a detailed spreadsheet and calculated every component. A bottle that appeared highly profitable on paper could quickly become far less attractive once all expenses were included. This exercise taught her one of the most important lessons in consumer products. Revenue is not profit. Sales volume alone does not guarantee success. The businesses that survive understand their numbers better than their competitors. She also realized that repeat purchases could dramatically improve profitability. Acquiring a customer once can be expensive. Selling to that same customer again often costs much less. That insight changed how she thought about the brand. Instead of chasing one-time transactions, she wanted customers to trust the product enough to reorder regularly. This is why quality and consistency mattered so much. A disappointing first experience could eliminate years of future revenue from a single household. As Emily refined her projections, she discovered that a healthy business depended on balancing margins, customer satisfaction, and operational efficiency. Every improvement in packaging costs, production efficiency, or customer retention had a direct impact on profitability. By the time she finished her analysis, she knew exactly what sales targets were required to make the business sustainable. The numbers finally made sense. But understanding profitability was only part of the equation. The next challenge was finding the first customers willing to take a chance on a completely new brand. By this point, Emily had something many aspiring entrepreneurs never reach. She had a legal business structure, a product strategy, a realistic budget, and a clear understanding of her numbers. But none of that guaranteed success. A business only becomes real when customers are willing to exchange their money for the product. That meant the next challenge was finding the first buyers. Like many beginners, Emily initially considered launching on large online marketplaces. The problem was obvious. Competing against established brands with thousands of reviews would be difficult and expensive. Instead of trying to win a national battle on day one, she focused on smaller opportunities where trust could be built more quickly. Her first customers came from local communities. Friends, family members, neighbors, and referrals became the starting point. These early buyers were not just customers. They were a source of feedback. They helped her understand what people liked, what they disliked, and what improvements could make the product more appealing. Emily also discovered that certain customer groups were easier to reach than others. Local cleaning companies, short-term rental hosts, small laundromats, and community organizations already purchased cleaning products on a regular basis. If she could demonstrate value, she had a chance to build recurring relationships rather than relying on one-time orders. Social media became another important tool. Instead of posting endless sales messages, Emily focused on education, product demonstrations, and customer experiences. People were far more interested in seeing results than hearing promises. This approach helped build credibility without requiring a massive advertising budget. As orders slowly increased, something interesting happened. The business began generating data. Emily could see which products sold best, which customer groups reordered most often, and which marketing activities produced actual sales. That information became more valuable than any guesswork. The goal was no longer simply making sales. The goal was building a predictable system for acquiring and retaining customers. Every repeat order strengthened the foundation of the company. Every satisfied customer increased the likelihood of referrals. And every month brought a clearer picture of where growth opportunities existed. Yet as demand continued to rise, Emily faced a completely different question. How could she grow the business without losing the quality, consistency, and trust that helped create those first customers in the first place? As customer orders became more consistent, Emily entered a phase that many entrepreneurs dream about but few prepare for properly. Growth. On the surface, more sales seemed like the perfect problem to have. In reality, growth introduced a completely new set of challenges. Every additional order increased pressure on production, inventory management, customer support, shipping, and quality control. What worked when fulfilling a few orders each week could quickly break down when dozens of orders started arriving. Emily understood that scaling was not about selling more bottles. It was about building systems capable of handling more customers without sacrificing the experience that made the brand successful in the first place. One of her first priorities was standardization. Every batch needed to be produced the same way. Every label needed to be applied correctly. Every shipment needed to arrive on time. Consistency became a competitive advantage. Customers might forgive a small company for being new, but they would not forgive unreliable products. As demand increased, Emily evaluated whether to continue producing smaller batches herself or transition more production to specialized partners. Outsourcing certain functions allowed her to focus on higher value activities such as customer relationships, marketing, and product development. The goal was not to do everything personally. The goal was to build a business that could operate efficiently as volume increased. She also began paying closer attention to customer retention. Acquiring new customers was important, but encouraging existing customers to reorder often produced better returns. Subscription options, bundle packages, and loyalty incentives became tools for increasing lifetime customer value. Instead of constantly searching for new buyers, Emily worked to strengthen relationships with the customers she already had. The financial impact was significant. Higher retention meant more predictable revenue. More predictable revenue made inventory planning easier. Better planning reduced waste and improved cash flow. Every part of the system became stronger. Over time, Emily realized that scaling successfully had very little to do with luck. It came down to processes, documentation, supplier relationships, and customer trust. The businesses that survive long-term are rarely the ones growing the fastest. They are usually the ones growing in a controlled and repeatable way. And after building the foundation, launching the product, finding customers, and creating systems for growth, Emily was finally able to look back and identify the lessons she wished she had known from the very beginning. Looking back on the journey, Emily realized that the biggest lesson had nothing to do with detergent, packaging, or even marketing. The most important lesson was that successful businesses are built on trust long before they are built on revenue. Every decision she made, from choosing a legal structure to selecting suppliers and designing labels, ultimately came back to one question. Would this help customers trust the company? Early in the process, it was tempting to focus on shortcuts. It was tempting to rush the product, rush the branding, and rush the launch. But every time she slowed down and built a stronger foundation, the business benefited later. If Emily could start over from day one, she would spend less time worrying about appearing bigger and more time understanding customers. In the beginning, she thought professional branding was the key advantage. Over time, she discovered that listening to customer feedback created far more value. The customers told her which features mattered, which benefits they cared about, and what would make them purchase again. Those insights shaped the business more than any marketing campaign. Her advice for beginners is surprisingly simple. Start smaller than you think you need to. Focus on one customer group, one clear product, and one reliable process. Learn how the business works before trying to scale it. Many entrepreneurs fail because they attempt to solve 10 problems at once. Emily found success by solving one problem at a time and building systems around each solution. She also learned that numbers matter. Understanding costs, margins, customer acquisition expenses, and repeat purchase behavior is just as important as creating a great product. A business that does not understand its numbers is operating on hope instead of strategy. Most importantly, she discovered that ordinary products can create extraordinary opportunities when supported by the right systems. The bottle itself was never the business. The business was the combination of trust, consistency, customer relationships, operational discipline, and repeatable processes working together. That became the core principle behind everything she built. In consumer products, trust is the product. Everything else is simply the delivery system.